Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is Joe Donahue here bringing you the newly founded rendition of Big Block Modified Racing here on BRPtv. Welcome, race fans, to the MRDR iRacing series presented by MRDR Graphics, MDR Designs, your homeboys here in the booth. We got a bunch of good drivers and good sponsors and good partners who have brought back together a racing series that we were very well attuned to for the past, oh goodness gracious, I think I've been involved in it for 5 or 6 straight years now. But here we are nonetheless for the MRDR iRacing series, and we are beginning tonight with the opener presented by MRDR Graphics and MDR Designs from the virtual Volusia Speedway Park here on iRacing. I am Joe Donahue. I will be your host for these racing events alongside my partner in crime for the last few seasons, and bringing us forward into this newly branded series is Jonathan Howe. Jonathan, welcome back to the booth. It's been a little while since we've been up here together, but it's almost as exciting as the first time. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I am very excited to be here tonight.
Yeah, definitely a lot of anticipation, Joe. I'm ready for it myself, looking forward to it. You get a little sad. We had our banquet and awards ceremony for Maryville Speedway a couple weeks ago now, so that was kind of like truly, okay, racing season is over, but this makes me feel like I'm right back in it, and that's kind of the best part about doing this virtual league.
Absolutely agree with that. So this virtual league, we've been used to running this league for anywhere between 15 to 24 weeks in the past. This season is going to be a little bit more short, sweet, to the point. We are going to be running an 8-race calendar, and I'm going to bring up on the screen here what you guys should be expecting for the schedule of events. So we are going to be starting off here, obviously, at Volusia, and I am very excited to bring you the 50-lap race here. This is a great track to start your season off at. The second race will be at Lernerville, as we usually do with this series, and then we will go to Cedar Lake. We will then follow with Weedsport, and then we will go to Charlotte. We will go to Knoxville. We will go to Lanier, and then we will finish at a new racetrack in the iRacing platform. We will be at Oswego, New York. There's a break in there for the holidays because we do this over the wintertime. But Jonathan, we have 8 races. We tried to bring together the best tracks for this season. How do you feel about what we've got on the docket for these 8 events?
You know, when I think modifieds, I really think we've captured it with these selections of tracks this year. I mean, obviously, you get some staples like Weedsport. We saw that be, a staple on the Super Dirt Car Series calendar, of course, having Oswego there. But then, we get some fun ones. You get a Charlotte in there, which, of course, the World Finals were just at. Knoxville, Lanier. I really think we got kind of the best of both worlds in terms of racetracks that we'd probably see typically on a Super Dirt Car Series calendar, while also adding in some of everyone's favorite dirt tracks.
What's your favorite dirt track on the schedule, Jonathan? Which track are you most excited to go to for this series?
Well, I'm pretty pumped for Weedsport. I find that a really unique venue. I mean, that's one of the ones that's really close for me. That was part of the motivation for me to jump on board with the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast and sponsor that one. But there's just something about Charlotte, man. I just think, with being in NASCAR's backyard and having a racetrack at such a historic facility, there's something special about going to Charlotte. So that Weedsport Charlotte back-to-back right in the middle, that's probably the portion of the schedule that I'm looking forward to the most. But seeing Oswego on there, having a 75-lapper to close out the year, that's going to be super fun, and one that I'm super looking forward to as well.
I could vibe with that one 100%. I'm really excited for Oswego. I'm really excited for because it's a new track. I'm very excited for Lanier and Cedar Lake and Lernerville. I think I'd actually probably go Lanier and Lernerville. And then Cedar Lake, but those are racetracks that we have had races before that have been stellar with the BRP iRacing series, which now is the MRDR iRacing series, and those are the ones I'm looking forward to. But obviously, new racetrack, Oswego, that's going to be exciting. This might be a new racetrack added on to a new schedule in a new series, but our partners are not new. These are all partners of our series that we want to shout out and thank for being a part of this rebrand, that have been a part of this whole journey for BRP and the BRPtv and the iRacing series. MRDR Graphics, MDR Designs, Creative Turnings, BRPtv, 47 Technology, and the Southern Ontario Dirt Show, as well as some other slight electricals jumping in the loop a little bit this season. We've got a lot of people who have helped us get to this point now, and we got to give them the credit that is due. For the time being, there's 1 minute left in the practice session. It's coming to a close here. These drivers got 20 minutes at the beginning of the program for themselves to get used to the Volusia Speedway Park tonight. And then we will go into a 3-minute, 2-lap qualifying session that will lead us into our heat races. And then following that, we will have a consolation if necessary, which by looking at the number of entries right now, we will not need. The maximum for the feature is 24 drivers. We have 24 loaded into the session. And then we are going to have the 50-lap feature race for tonight. We've got a ton of drivers that have been here before, and we've got a couple newbies in the series, and we will be introducing them to you slowly over the course of the show. What we have on the screen right here is one of them. This is... my screen got messed up here because he's actually not in the 39 car. He's in the 15 on track, but this is Mike Brewer, one of the new names to this series. He is currently third fastest as the practice session comes to a close. Fastest was Brian Lawson, and that is a name I think we're going to be watching out for a lot. I was talking to some of the drivers before this race started tonight, before the session started, Jonathan, and they all seem to be pointing at the number 9 car. So are there any drivers that you know of, any names you recognize that you're watching specifically tonight?
I think I'm really interested to see what, in particular, Anthony Roselli's got for this year, this whole season long. I kind of felt like he was one of those drivers that really came on strong in the second half of the season last year when we were doing the BRP iRacing League. That was, of course, a pretty long season, a bit of a grind, but he and his brother Dominic also really came on strong in that second half of the season. And we have a short schedule this year, Joe, so you can't really waste any time. You can't figure out the series. You can't figure out your competition. You got to get right to it, and I really think both Rosellis are capable of doing that here tonight at Volusia.
Absolutely. That's a great way to describe what happened with the Roselli brothers in the last season. I'm hoping for their sake they don't do the same. Looks like Dominic, he gets a time up on the board here. That beautiful number 80 car. I love the color scheme of this. It reminds me of the 90s, even though I only lived through like 350 days of it. Ryan Beagle jumps up in front of him. A couple other guys did as well. Dominic Roselli's P7 for the time being. Let's see who else is out on track. Zach Bardsley's out. Never mind. Zach Bardsley's done. Let's go check out one of these newbies. This is Dylan Slider, and one of the new names making his first appearance in this series, Jonathan. The car looks pretty good.
No stranger to me. I mean, the Slider family in general, staples of racing around the Niagara region where I am. And, Josh Slider, a champion of the Mod Light division, Ray Slider, really responsible for really building a lot of the cars that compete in that division Saturday nights at Maryville Speedway, my home track. But Dylan, a sprint car driver and a good buddy of Al Slayton. I'm glad that Al was able to bring Dylan on board for this one this year.
Yes, Alan Slight and Slider. That's not confusing at all. We got Gavin.
No, not at all.
Yeah. We got Gavin Isley on the screen right here. He's one of the usual suspects of this racing series, usually a name to be contended with. Brian Lawson said himself, quick time, definitely living up to the concern of the other drivers in this grid. Got Dean Reynolds out on track as well as he goes second quick. Oh my God, he was 1,000th off the fastest lap. Dead straight 1,000th off. Let's see if he gets better on the second one. Trying to keep up with these guys as best as we can during the qualifying because they all go out at the same time and then we can't really follow everyone. Dean Reynolds not going to do better. That's a fantastic lap for Dean to stay up there.
Yeah, Dean was really happy with the setups that were chosen for these modified cars in this current season, in this current iteration of the MRDR iRacing series. Now, I particularly don't understand what could have changed that much, Joe. Maybe you can go into some detail about what may have changed in terms of the setups that these guys are using compared to last year that Dean might be so pleased with as we see Brewer go to the top.
Oh, Mike Brewer does go to the top. He just barely nicks out Brian Lawson in the 9 car. Fantastic. He was the last car to go out, too. And to answer your question, Jonathan, I'm glad you asked, because this is something that the iRacing guys know pretty well. What happens with iRacing is at the end of every season, not necessarily every season that they change each car, but they'll put out a big rollout of updates at the end of every season in iRacing, which is 13 weeks in iRacing. So 4 times a year, they'll update a bunch of stuff. And a lot of times, they will update the handling and the physics of the cars in the game. They will also update the baseline setups and some of the special setups that you can put on the cars. They will change how the tracks handle, and they'll add other new stuff into the program. So since the last time we've driven, I think there have been 2 or 3 updates to this car and dirt track surfaces in general, which means these drivers are racing something very different than the last time we ran. They're running different setups. They're running different cars, basically. Like, they handle close but not exactly the same. And as a result of that, what you might have been saying with Dean Reynolds liking it would be he could have liked the build. He could have liked the changes that iRacing has made. And then also in response to that, he likes the way that Matt DeRitter, who's set up the program for tonight, how Matt DeRitter has the cars set up to race, what setup they're going to use and expect these drivers to run. This is a fixed setup racing series, so every driver has basically the same car underneath them. It's up to them to figure out how to run it to the optimum, as we're getting ready to start the running with these heat races, and we'll try to bring you the starting grid. I want to try and see if this works. Oh my gosh, it does. Fantastic. All right, starting grid for heat race number 1. I'll go quick because they're getting ready to go green here. Mike Brewer going to go from the pole. He was fastest in qualifying. Matt DeRitter is going to go from second place in the 03 car. MRDR Graphics and MDR Designs on the side. Starting in third, one of the regular competitors for the championship is the big dog Ryan Beagle, and we got a newbie beside him in car number 22 is Kenny Coe. Dan Smith in car number 57, that one's all white. He goes from 5th place on the grid. And then 6th place, you got Brian Berger out of Castleton, New York for Phase 3 racing. Glenn Sharp, a sharp-looking number 99 car out of South Carolina in 7th place on the grid. And Cody Harris is going to go from 8th place on the grid, driving car number 20. That is the first heat race that we are going to see for this season. I'm going to check. We got 6 laps on the docket for our heat races tonight. Jonathan, that's a little bit shorter than we're used to. We're used to 10-lap heat races. Now we got only 6.
Yeah, you got to be on it real quick, and a little bit different too in terms of our point structure and how we're going to be handing out points. You might remember last year that heat race winners got 4 points, second place, third, 3 points, third, second, 2 points, easy for me to say, and the 4th place finisher got 1 point. This year, we've taken that back a little bit, and only 2 points for a winner and 1 point for making the show as a qualifier, finishing in the top 4 as the green flag flies, Joe. We'll have to watch the battle for the extra points awarded in this one.
Absolutely, we will. So off the get-go, you got the number 39 car to the lead. Mike Brewer, he scored as the 39 car. Matt DeRitter right behind him, and Ryan Beagle has a nice little run going. There is a battle for 3rd and 4th going on. Kenny Coe on the outside in car number 22. And down on the inside is Dan Smith in the 57 car. This is a great opportunity for us to check out some of these new cars so that not only you, the fans, can get familiar with the cars on track and who's driving them, but also for Jonathan and I. This is the first time that Jonathan and I get to check out these cars, the first time they all brought them to the track, and they're looking pretty good, and we are single-filed out, so I think we're going to probably ride like this for a little while, Jonathan. The track's still a little bit young for anything crazy to start happening.
Yeah, Berger's trying to get to the bottom side there, a challenge for that, I believe that's the 5th spot on the racetrack. Hasn't been able to really make the move stick right now on Smith, but he'll keep trying it. Brian Berger, another regular of the series. Happy to see Brian back racing with us this year as they're single file amongst the front, pretty much the entire field now.
Yeah, the whole field's single file right here. They're coming to the white flag. Mike Brewer has led the entire way through it, and he's going to come see that white flag this time. Matt DeRitter in 2nd place is a couple car lengths back, really not contending. He's about 0.7 of a second behind. And the first heat race of the year is not the most eventful heat race of the year, but it certainly got the ball rolling, as it's going to be Beagle in 3rd there behind Matt DeRitter in 2nd, and your winner, Mike Brewer, comes across the line first. He's going to get those first bonus points of the year. And hey, he's starting pretty good in the first feature race too. That's nothing to be complaining about either.
No, you can't complain about that. A lot of speed out of that Brewer machine so far. Definitely going to be one to watch later on, and he'll have some great track position as well.
Absolutely, he will, as we're going to bring the next set of 8 out onto the track and bring you the starting grid for the second group. From the pole, going to be car number 9 out of Stanfordville, New York. The Regency Home Inspection Super Dirt Car Series Venom Racing number 9 car is Brian Lawson. To his outside, had a great run at last season. The Van Sickle Electric car number 7 is the Ice Chip out of Pennsylvania, Anthony Rosselli. Starting from third place in car number 18. We're used to him being a part of this series as a regular in a real-world super modified. He is running the 18 car in here. Gavin Isley back on the block. And to his outside, another driver we're used to seeing a lot of with this series in its past out of East Greenbush, New York. Scotty's Fashion, Gower's Auto Body Shop on the side for Jeff Sharp. Starting from 5th place, he got 3 wins last season in car number 80. It took him a little while to come into form, but Monticello's New York's D. Rose, Dominic Rosselli, will roll from 5th place. And to his outside, a multi-time champion of this series and the defending one as well, as he has a hell of a track record, is Cody Higbee in the Iceless 97. Connor Ross back on the block for the first time in, I think, 2 or 3 years in car number 35. Will roll from 7th place and rolling from the final starting position in heat race number 2 out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. He's got no sponsors on him. They call him Bud. That's Bud Molyneux. Now there's your 8 drivers ready for their second heat race. Jonathan, are you anticipating a little bit more action out of this one, or are we expecting more of the same?
I feel like we're looking at a pretty intense fight in this one. There's some heavy hitters. Cody Higbee, I'm so kind of surprised at how far back he is. Did not have the pace early in this one. We'll see if he can fight his way up from this one. Also would keep an eye on those Rosellis as the green flag waves. And Anthony with a good jump from the outside in that 7 car.
Out.
Look at him stack up. Oh, there's 3-4 cars involved in what should be an caution here, I believe. Are we throwing full caution flags in these heats? I think it might just stay green, right?
Yeah, I believe we're leaving the cautions off for the heat races. Jeff Sharp has to go to the pit lane. Dominic Rosselli will too. Man, that is a tough break for those guys starting off this season. A big wreck going into turn number 1. This is the chaotic heat race. There's always one chaotic heat race in a night, and we got it out of the way now, I guess. At the front of the field, it's Anthony Rosselli over Brian Lawson and Gavin Isley, Jonathan. They're running pretty close together, and they're all kind of similar paint schemes, so we're going to have to make sure we don't mix them up.
Yeah, it should be a good fight between these 3 here. Lawson had some pace in practice, had some pace in qualifying. Now he's got to go on the offense here if he wants to challenge Anthony Rosselli. And Rosselli doing a good job. And don't sleep on Gavin Isley, man. I mean, he had a great season in the real world on many different dirt surfaces. And I'm glad to see him back in the game in this one. I think he's going to have a lot to say about the championship in this shortened 8 season. Look at this action, Joe. 3 wide for the lead.
3 wide coming down the backstretch. Gavin Isley on the bottom side of the racetrack here. He's going to try to make a dive in. It looks like the middle's just too good right now for him to get past Rosselli, but he is challenging Brian Lawson, and as the white flag comes out, the last time around this world's fastest half-mile dirt track, Anthony Rosselli's got the top side held up. Can he keep it there, or will Gavin Isley send it?
He's going to maybe send it. He might be able to send it on the inside of Lawson. No, it's not going to stick for him, and nobody's going to have anything. For Anthony Rosselli, the lucky 7 starts off with a win in heat number 2 here in this young Murder iRacing Series season.
Good run for him. And how about Bud Molyneux? He got all the way up to 4th place at the end of this one. That mix-up at the beginning of the heat definitely helped him, but 4th place isn't too shabby. That's actually bonus points. That's good. You need those. Starting grid for heat race number 3 going to come up on the screen now. We got 8 more drivers lined up. This will be the final heat race of the night as we've got 24. We're bringing them all straight to the feature, so no consolation necessary. But starting off from the pole for the Super Dirt Car Series, driving out of North Syracuse, New York. They call him Dirt Car Dean. This is Dean Reynolds. To his outside, a rookie in this series. They call him the Philly Flyer, but he's out of Chatham, Ontario for Super Dirt Car Series RSN trackside. Lambden Diesel Specialists. This is Trevor Giroux. And starting from 3rd place, in car number 2, the Slight Electrical Machine. A longtime member of this series is Alan Slight. To his outside, another one. Representing Douglasville, Pennsylvania, Dirt Defender and Pro Line. This is Dean Meitzler. On the inside of row number 3, the car USA 1 out of Doylestown, Pennsylvania. For Senco Heating, Oil, and Propane and Lineman Racing, this is Hosehead Zach Bardsley. And then aside of him, driving the car actually scored as number 15 from Pine Bush, New York. TAD Excavation, Nelson's Bar, Hig Fab Chassis on the side for Dylan Smith. Final row on the grid. Car number 4, the Slide Job Scotty Machine from Lyons, New York. This is Scott Rayholm. And from 8th place on the grid, going at the tail, is going to be Dylan Slider, who we've called out earlier in this one, out of Port Colborne Racing out of Niagara Falls, New York. That's the last 8. Jonathan, last 8 for the last 6 for the last heat race of the night already. We got through this one fairly quickly by the looks of it.
Yeah, moving with pretty good pace. That's a good sign for feature racing tonight, I would say as well, Joe. Volusia playing a pretty fast track right now.
Seems to be that way, and I'm waiting for it to kind of calm down a little bit, maybe get a little bit of good action out of this. But I'd rather take heat races like this and a little bit of life in the racetrack for the 50-lap feature than have good heat races and then slick off the track for the feature. I don't want to have the Chili Bowl happen in this event tonight, so let's hope for the best as the green flag comes out. Alan Slight really didn't get a good restart or good start there. He falls into the grasp of everybody else in the grid as we got Trevor Giroux leading the way and Dean Reynolds challenging him.
Reynolds on the inside of Giroux there. They're side by side coming out of 4. Giroux maybe leads it by about a wheel length ahead of Reynolds. Reynolds throws it in the middle there once again, but can't keep the car wound up enough to stay alongside Giroux. Giroux takes over that top spot, and then it's just a hornet's nest behind them. Look at them all slideways and bouncing off each other through 3 and 4, Joe.
And that is Dylan Smith, who got the worst end of that. He jumped all the way back to the tail of this group. He's in 7th place now, and he's going to try to challenge back on Zach Bardsley and Dean Meitzler. Those are the 2 Pennsylvania natives that he's trying to get past right there. Alan Slight staying on the low side. Vibrant number 2 car and some more contact between them. Dylan Smith gets by Zach Bardley with the elbows out, and he's into 6th place. Is back at the front, Trevor Giroux. No competition, absolutely nobody nearby.
Don't call this open wheel racing. They are full contact stock car racing from about 5th on back right now. But up at the front, Giroux's just in total control. Just really having a Monday night cruise right now. Battles on for the 2nd spot here as Reynolds comes under fire out of 4.
Scott Rayholm trying to make it work there as they come under the white flag. Trevor Giroux, no trouble up front. Dean Reynolds, a little bit of trouble right here for 2nd place. He's got Scott Rayholm and now Alan Slight trying to move in and make some position back. Dean Meitzler with a big send doesn't work. Trevor Giroux is going to win the heat race over Dean Reynolds and Scott Rayholm with a nice battle to the finish. But there is your 3rd heat race winner of the night, Trevor Giroux, coming out strong in his first showing with the series.
Absolutely. You know, Joe, I think this is going to be a storyline, especially early in the season, is the established veterans, the champions, the past race winners that we've seen over the previous few seasons versus these new guys who are showing a lot of pace, a lot of speed early in this one.
Absolutely, I would agree with that. There are some really good names coming out that are older names. There are some really good names coming out that are newer names. They're mixing it up really nicely, and that's what I want. I mean, everybody wants to win, but I think we all want to see new guys come into the series and be able to fight, be able to bring some fresh blood, if you will, to the water for guys like Matt DeRitter, Gavin Isley, Ryan Beagle. So this is really good to see, and I also think the track's coming in really nicely. I mean, we got a 50-lap feature on our hands, and they're going to work it in a little bit here, but Jonathan, it looks kind of good right now.
No, it really does seem like this track is going to put on some great action. I'm waiting for, I think lap 35 mark. I'm really interested to see how wide the surface will have gotten by that point.
I would agree with that, Jonathan. Is there anything that you would say, like, what would be your expectations of a track like Merrittville, which is kind of similar to Volusia in configuration at least? What would be your expectation if you saw a track that it was just starting to slick off a little bit in the entry of the corners, and there was still a nice berm? You could get down low and get some grip like that. If you saw that at Merrittville, what would be your take on what you're expecting?
I would expect the veteran drivers to be able to attack the track more and know how to use every inch of the surface to their particular advantage. When I think of some of the hometown heroes I think of, James Friesen, always one of the first ones to test that berm, get up as high against the cushion as he possibly can, and that makes for exciting racing while the other guys wrap it around the bottom side. Mr. Small Block, Pete Bicknell, guy's won so many championships, I don't even know if I can count him. I think his championship win percentage is almost like 50% in his career, and I very rarely see him stray from the bottom no matter what the surface is, right? So it just comes down to, I think, experience, and the game will be very much the same. Anybody who's run more often, who has experience with these big block modifieds, and if they have any experience with Volusia, they're going to know where they want to place their car at any given point. They're going to be able to tell when the surface is wearing to their advantage or when they need to adjust that line and start moving. But I really think what we're going to see, and what you might see on a Saturday night when you have the conditions that you described, Joe, is you're going to see everybody attack the racetrack with their own line, and that should, I think, is presumably going to result in a lot of good racing and a lot of drivers being able to run the line that they want to. And this surface, I think, is going to widen out as well.
The reason I asked is because I'm anticipating that that's going to be a good representation of what we're expecting to see tonight. The track configuration is, obviously it's not exact, but it's roughly close. It might be one of the closer. Oh, Dean, what are you doing, man? That's awesome. That's fun.
He's having a little early fun with it.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a long on season for these guys in the real racing world. Might as well have some fun with it. Yeah, Merrittville's, I don't know if you'd say maybe it's the closest. Like Volusia is the closest to Merrittville on the season, but that's kind of what I was hoping to hear from you, and I want to get the gist of what we're expecting out of the new guys, like some of the ones on the screen here, the 4 car, the 22, 883, or some of those guys we're used to seeing in the series, Brian Berger, Dean Meitzler, et cetera, et cetera. Before we get into it, we got about a minute left here in the warm-up session time frame where the driver's just going to sit here and get the engines warm, change out the tires, get ready for 50 laps. One more time here, shout out our partners and sponsors of this racing series. Links in the description to go check out MRDR Graphics, MDR Designs, Creative Turnings, 47 Technology, and the Southern Ontario Dirt Show. You're watching BRPtv. We've got the MRDR iRacing series, race number 1 of 8 for the season. Volusia Speedway Park is the host of the opener. Jonathan Howe alongside myself, Joe Donahue, here for the 8-race calendar this season. Excited to be back and ready to go. Jonathan, you alluded a little bit earlier to the point structure being different in the heat races, and they are. The points are different in the main event. They're being distributed a little bit differently. The winner is going for 40 points in this one. So not as much influence from the heat races, but 40 points is a lot of points, Jonathan, and 35 points to second. So you got a 5-point gap if you can take the win. We're anticipating, I think it's fair to say, a pretty good fight at the front end of the field tonight.
Yeah, when we looked at the point structure from last year, we had some conversations about it, and it kind of felt like, yes, Cody Higbee was a dominant performer come feature race time, but he really seemed to rack up a lot of points and take advantage of all the points that were awarded throughout the night, whether it be fast qualifier, winning a heat race, leading the most laps. And we wanted to make it more about winning these feature events, right? And, short of some kind of playoff system or something weird like that, I think we've come up with maybe the best way to emphasize winning being the most important thing. You want to get those extra 5 points on your competitor by being a first-place finisher. And I really think that could be a difference in this championship when it's all said and done.
I would agree with that. I am excited to see how it plays out. We've actually got the in-car audios coming through our stream a little bit here. So occasionally you're hearing someone talking to someone else in the background here. But we got Mike Brewer going from the pole in his first MRDR iRacing Series start. On his outside, Anthony Roselli is not a name to be messed with from this series. Trevor Giroux and Matt DeRitter make up row number 2. Then you got Brian Lawson, that's one to watch, and Dean Reynolds in row number 3. Row 4 is Ryan Beagle and Gavin Isley, and then rounding out the top 10, we see Scott Rayom and Kenny Coe. Bud Molyneux goes from 11th place in the 883 with Alan Slight to his outside. Dan Smith and Cody Higbee make up row 7. Row number 8, Dean Meitzler on the inside in the 49, and to his outside is Cody Higbee. Brian Berger and Connor Ross are going to start from the next row back. Then we've got Dylan Smith, Glenn Sharp, Dominic Roselli, Zach Bardsley, who Bardsley was actually fastest in the warm-up, Cody Harris, Jeff Sharp, and Dylan Slider. that's the 24 drivers to start this race tonight. And they're pacing around to get the green flag this time. Jonathan, I'm going to let you call the start of this race tonight. We got 8 of them for the season, and the first one gets to start right here, right now on BRPtv.
Yeah, here we go. Tight start as the field winds out. Volusia, and here comes the flag. Flag is up, pedals are down, away we go. And what a start down on the inside. That inside line moving in general, but here comes Roselli with the fight back on the outside. This I thought was going to go right to the 15, the 39, however you want to score Brewer tonight. I thought this first lap was going to easily go to him, but Roselli not giving up the fight, Joe. He's gone back to the inside now, a bit of a crossover from these 7.
He's going to try it. Matt DeRitter kind of lurking there. We got a lot of race left in this one. Roselli's going to jump in line, and we are going to stay that way back to the stripe again. 2 laps down already, and they both have gone to Mike Brewer. The mid-pack's getting exciting in here. I'm seeing a lot of stuff moving around. We got a yellow flag out on the track, and that is going to be, I think Jeff Sharp is going to be the cause of this yellow, and it's going to be the first time that we pull out our good old friend, Mr. Replay. And let's go ahead and check out what happened to car number 28 if we can. Let's see if we can get on the 28 car. We might be a little bit behind where this all unfolded. We are. Let's try it again. Mr. Replay needs to do his thing. Let's see.
We're having
Here
such
we
a
go.
smooth night, Joe. It had to happen, right?
Yeah, we got the whole way to this point without, well, we had that one heat race, but hey, you know, for knocking the dust off of ATVO and all the broadcast stuff, for Mr. Replay Screen to be the guy to hold us down quick, that's not too shabby. There's the contact. That's Dylan.
Yeah, I was going to say, this starts way ahead of Jeff Sharp here.
Yes, it does. So that was Dylan Smith. Now, Jeff Sharp's going to be the one who causes the caution because he's the only one that doesn't get resituated in this. And I'm waiting because at some point he's going to end up on top of the wall. And I'm curious.
So he's trying to spin the car around and just can't quite get her going on that banking.
Let's see if this comes to it. This should be it, right? We're roughly here. Come on. He ends up on the wall. I'm not crazy, I promise. There it is.
Oh, he's turning this into a monster truck show. All right.
Oh, man. Gravedigger on the block here. That's awesome. Well, that's Jeff Sharp. And that is the first caution of the night and the first caution of the series. How about that? Wow. But there were others involved. I mean, the 99, Glenn Sharp was involved. Roselli's all the way back there. Dylan Slider. Yeah, there were a couple.
Remember, Dominic Roselli had the issue in the heat race. He's one of the ones that I think we both kind of highlighted as a name to watch, Joe, and has not had the start to the season that 80 car wants as we're back to green now.
Yes, we are. Definitely not the start he wanted, but a great holy cow, Mike Brewer. Did he jump the start? That was a fantastic go. Wow. That was fast, man. Look out. Here he comes.
Yeah, that was close. I couldn't quite tell from my screen, Joe. I thought maybe Brewer might have jumped it for a second there, but maybe we just had a delay in the graphic as well between it turning green from the yellow flag condition. Either way, Brewer with a great jump, but he's already come under fire as Roselli's kind of closed right back in. It didn't take long for the 7 car, and here comes the 84 RK. Don't count out the big dog. Beagle starting to make some noise up inside the top 5.
Man, he really is. Well, is it surprising? It's Ryan Beagle, but it's surprising to me that the bottom's coming in so strong so quick in this race. We're only a tenth of the way into it, and already Ryan Beagle's using it to avail. He's getting passes in on these guys and starting to make his way up to the front of the field. I wonder if it's a little premature, though, Jonathan. Do you really want to be getting on the move like this that quick?
It's tough to say. I mean, 50 laps isn't very long, Joe. I don't know if I would be as worried about. Maybe if this was a 75 or maybe an 80-lap race, maybe I'd want to save some stuff a little bit. But I kind of feel like with only 50 on the board, maybe just capitalize on the fact that you've got to run and get her going.
Yeah, fair. That's fair. It isn't that long of a race, and we're already going to be at a fifth of the way into it here. So Ryan Beagle in 4th place. If he wants to get up to the lead, and with Mike Brewer running the way he is right now, man, you're going to have to start moving and do it quickly. Oh, look out. Anthony Roselli looking for a pass. Maybe we'll see a battle for the lead here with that 7, and the car scored as the 39 that's actually the 15 out on track.
What I'm seeing, too, is that more than a few drivers are really trying to make that bottom side of the racetrack work, and I don't think that's going to be the prevailing line for long. So if you're Beagle or if you're any of these guys that are running a little bit lower right down on that bottom lane, may as well use it up now early in the night. You see Gavin Isley, the Catfish, no stranger to the bottom side of any racetrack. He's down there trying to make it work as well, as he's trying to break inside the top 5 and follow the big dog around the shortest way around Volusia.
Well, it's working for him. Him and Ryan Beagle kind of running nose to tail on the bottom side of the racetrack. They're trying to get through on Matt DeRitter. Beagle slides across the nose of the 03 car on the front stretch, and it works, but only for a second as Matt DeRitter's going to look to the inside. Can Beagle feed him back on the outside? This was Ryan Beagle's move to go low and make that pass on DeRitter, and DeRitter's going to use it right back on him. Yellow flag comes out. We got something going on the racetrack, and it's going to involve the 57 car of Dan Smith at a minimum.
Yeah, tough break for that. And speaking of the big dog, I got to give Ryan Beagle a shout out. I saw a whole bunch of hardware from him after the Volusia Speedway banquet, where he is, of course, the 2024 Thunderstock champion and racked up a whole bunch of race wins and some big trophies as well in what was a great 2024 year for the big dog.
Yes, I did see some of that this year. It was really fun to watch him and keep up with him getting some victories. We always root for those guys that come out for the MRDR iRacing series when they go out for the real racing world. Alan Slight's going to be the cause of this yellow because he's going to come into turn number 1 too low.
Oof.
Yep, and then he slides up, and that's Dan Smith in car number 57 that he unfortunately just clobbers into the wall. A 2-car incident ends with the 57 up at the top side of 1 and 2, and that is the result of Alan's slight. So I am sure that Alan's going to have a little bit of damage to deal with on the number 2 car. We'll see. And Dan Smith's going to get that car repaired. Now, everybody in this series is going to get a fast repair. So they are all going to have one time where they can come into the pits and they can completely reset their car, since after all, this is a video game. And they'll come out with it like a brand spanking new race car. So Dan Smith can use that and stay competitive, but he does not have it again. So you get one time and that's it, and he might have had to use it there. Some of these guys more up front, they haven't obviously needed to use theirs yet, but if it comes into play for them, it'll put them back into the playing field. Whereas Dan Smith, if he gets into another accident, he might have to call it quits for the night, which would be a shame. We don't want to do that. We so far have not lost anybody. Dylan Smith is a lap down, but we still have 24 cars on the racing surface, Jonathan.
Yeah, the field is minding their P's and Q's so far. A couple of mistakes there. You could say that Al Slate maybe made a little bit of a mistake cutting to the inside, and that cost him. But for the most part, so far, clean racing around Volusia, and it's another great start up front for the driver of the 15 and 39, whatever we're scoring him as. That is Brewer out front.
Mike Brewer out front. Ryan Beagle looking to make a pass on Anthony Roselli there. You can see him coming in to turn number 4. Willie Diamond, nicely, not quite Anthony Roselli's going to hold the position for the time being. Rest of the top 10 behind them sees Matt DeRitter, Gavin Isley, Trevor Giroux, Kenny Coe, Brian Lawson, Dean Reynolds, and Scott Rayom. Scott Rayom just made a pass on Dean in the 9th place. And there's a couple of passes and position moving spots going around here. Looking right now, we've got Kenny Coe centered on the screen in the 22 car. That thing's a sharp-looking machine, and he's battling pretty well with Trevor Giroux and Matt DeRitter for position to get into the top 5.
We talked about it. I believe no connection between Randy Giroux and Trevor Giroux. Randy, of course, a former competitor of the what was BRP iRacing series, now the MRDR iRacing series. Shout out to MRDR Graphics for coming on board and keeping this program alive this year for 2024-25. Great season so far, Joe, and some great racing. And look at the big dog making his way forward again. That inside line working again for the 84 RK.
It definitely is. You can see where the slick spots are starting in turns 1, out of 2, and into 3. And that's when you start having the advantage to places on the track that don't shine as much when the sun hits them. But there is still a dominant high line. There's a bit of a cushion building up there. And that is where you see Mike Brewer and Anthony Roselli staying. And they're going to reside up there as we're getting close to 20 laps into this race. So we are closing in slowly on halfway. We've had a few yellows to get us to this point. But Ryan Beagle's going to stay tried and true to the bottom side of the racetrack for now, and Gavin Isley's going to do the same. We could expect that out of Isley. We call him the catfish for a reason. Ryan Beagle, this is how he gets into position. Is he like this in real life, Jonathan? Is he a kind of a bottom feeder, generally speaking, in the real world too?
He can be. I mean, Beagle's got some flexibility to him. I would say that the big dog does. He could kind of get on the bottom, but I've seen him run some races where he's glued to the top side too. Ryan Beagle's biggest strength is being adaptable. He really seems to be able to figure out what is working for his car in the moment and where everyone is going on the racetrack that's going to be fastest and how that compares to how his car is running, you know. We saw some great battles between him and the likes of Dave Bailey. That Thunderstock class is so much fun. If anybody wants to know a little bit more about Ryan Beagle's racing, go and check out the GeForce TV channel on YouTube as well and go back and watch some of those classics from Osh Weekend throughout the year. We had some dandy finishes. I would say the Thunderstock, Street Stock, Hoosier Stock, as we call them at Merrittville, whatever you want to call those class, the full-fendered V8 cars, they really put on a great show.
Yeah, and you definitely want to go check it out on GeForce TV as well, because they have this one guy that does the broadcasts there. He's kind of cool. He's pretty good at what he does. His name's John. He's pretty solid. But we're fortunate that he's also here on BRPtv with us. Jonathan Howe calling those races and these ones, and we're calling a pretty good one tonight. The tracks come in quite nicely. We're seeing the slicks start to expand a little bit, but it's still allowing for a top side. It's still allowing for a bottom side. Kenny Coe trying to use that bottom side to get past Ryan Beagle right now. The big dog holds him off as we're closing in on halfway. Kenny Coe is the second highest running of our rookie drivers, and then he's got another rookie driver right behind him, the white and purple number 4 car. And I am a sucker for cars with the number 4, like as a driving race number. The 4 is always a solid one in my book. Scott Rayome, he's eyeing up a 3-wide battle right now in his first start in the series.
See, so there's something I'm watching, Joe, is our good pal, the catfish, Gavin Isley. He's gone up the high side now. And if Gavin Isley's moving off the bottom, I feel like that might be a sign that maybe the bottom side is going away. And that certainly seems to be the case for Ryan Beagle, who has been really committed to that line, and it seems like it's really starting to cost him some time now as he's lost one position, maybe in danger of losing a second one here, as there's 2 cars to his outside battling there. But the top 3, basically the second place battle, tightest battle I'd say on the racetrack right now.
Definitely, and that is between Mike Brewer and Gavin Isley, as we missed at some point, and this might be part of why Gavin Isley switched lanes. We saw Anthony Roselli running as high as physically possible, and I'm not saying that's how he did it. I'm just saying there's a possibility that that's how he took the race lead and got himself a second and a quarter of a gap between himself and second place, which now is a battle between Isley and Brewer, a little bit more shaped up than it was when Jonathan first called it out. 2 white and black cars now looking to cross position, cross track lanes, and it's not going to work for Isley, but maybe he'll send it in again this time. Less than 20 laps to go here at Volusia for the first race of the season, Jonathan.
Isley with a really aggressive line on entry, and that's going to cost him as here comes Brewer right back to him. These 2 throwing slide jobs at each other. Great racing behind our leader as the caution flag's waving, Joe. This will be a nice little reset. We're going to have a bit of a sprint to the finish as it looks like Dylan Slider involved in this latest yellow.
Yes, this is Dylan Slider in the black, purple, and white number 71 car, bringing us this one. And this is going to be a lone driver accident, I believe, as we're going to follow him out of turn number 2 and in through 3 and 4 in this replay. You'll see him get it a little bit squirrely on his own on the front straightaway. And Jonathan, I took a car out on the track and did a little bit of practice before this race started just to get a gist of the new setup, the new physics of these cars. And honestly, it was a little bit easier to drive than it was before, but it's still difficult. And I did the exact same thing. I did the same thing that Dylan did right there at one point. I ran into those tires on the inside of turn number 4. That is a sucker point of this racetrack.
Yeah, that absolutely just jumps out at you. That is really dangerous. If you want to run that low line, you really got to make sure that you give yourself a little bit of breathing room up off the corner. Otherwise, the Volusia inside wall, that inside little tire barrier, tire sand pit, whatever you want to call it, that's going to jump out at you and grab you there in the game. Fun fact about Dylan Slider, I believe the first time that I was ever, especially solo announcing, Dylan Slider was the first time I had to call a car going upside down.
Really? That's
I
interesting.
believe. I think that's a fun fact. I know I've called a flip that was pretty aggressive. Like, Dylan Slider got some serious hang time, if I am remembering this particular moment correctly, at Merrittville Speedway. I believe during one of the COVID years, where there probably wasn't too many fans at the racetrack, but we were running those G-Force broadcasts and gave everybody a chance to at least watch at home while we were trying to get back to some normalcy. And I believe there was a crate sprint race that I think Slider took one heck of a tumble, and I believe that was my first time ever calling a car going upside down. And it's a breathtaking moment. Thankfully, a little calmer if a car gets up in the air when we're dealing with the virtual world, as we're back to the green flag here. Isley mounting a charge, but that bottom side just doesn't seem to have the pace, have the speed. Oh, as I thought there was going to be another situation similar to Slider. I have one car right down on the entrance or the exit of 4 that I thought was going to catch those yellow tire barriers again.
I've been looking out of the corner of my eye on this screen. I've been looking at things happening, and I keep thinking, oh, that's going to be a crash. Oh, that's going to be a crash. This was a hectic restart here now with the rest of the field. They're going all the way up to the wall. I can see Dean Reynolds in the 79 car. He's pushing it there, as well as Scott Rayom in the 4 machine, Ryan Beagle in the 84. Isley's up there as well, and look who's starting to get back into the top 10. He had a really bad start to the night, and he's trying to recuperate. Dominic Rosselli in the 80 car. This is something he was known for doing last season, and he is right in stride with again, coming from the back to the front. He's just trying to get as close as he can, and Cody Higby's starting to come into shape too.
Yeah, another driver that I think both of those guys, but especially Higby, I think we thought might have been able to get up there. But you know what this is showing, Joe, is the importance of track position, and it's going to be something we can monitor going forward throughout the years, just how important qualifying and your heat performance is going to be. You know, even if you finish 3rd in a heat, that can stick you kind of mid-pack, and there is no slouch. There's not really anybody who is going to be in the top 10, top 15, even top 20 cars in this league that you're going to be able to just easily blow by at any given point. So Cody Higby, he's going to have to do some work. Dominic Rosselli still having to do some work to get up there and maybe threaten for a top 5. You want to also kind of note our buddy Matt DeRitter kind of going backwards in this one.
Yeah, Matt DeRitter's fallen back to 8th place. He's got into the grasp of Dominic Rosselli right now. He's the next victim to the 80 car. If Dominic can pull it off here, we're getting close to 10 laps to go. So Matt DeRitter, if he wants to make something happen tonight, he's going to have to turn things around quickly and start picking these drivers off. Dean Reynolds is the most recent guy to get around him. Some of these new guys putting a show on, Mike Brewer and Kenny Coe. Gavin Isley sandwiched between them right now. Why don't we go ahead, take a minute, let's go on board. We like to do this once in a while. Kenny Coe, you're riding on board with the 22 car as he comes out of turn number 2. You hear the throttle control, and Jonathan, this is something that I struggle with the modifieds, which it's convenient that I broadcast and not race, is throttle control. I'm going to let him drive through 1 and 2, and let's listen to Kenny Coe's throttle.
Really smooth, not jamming on it at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, he didn't even get up to 100% throttle down the backstretch, so that just goes to show you really need to have a little bit of finesse if you want to actually compete with these race cars. And for 4th place, I mean, he's definitely doing it, but that just shows what it takes to be up front like Anthony Rosselli is, and he's got a straightaway lead now.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, too, I think about this surface and how it's changed, Joe, is when you're running that inside line, there's not as much grip there. You have to be more careful with the throttle, because when you put the power down, it's just not going to hook up for you. It's already hard enough to get up and off the corner when you've got somebody to your outside. Now you really have to take it easy and nurse it with how the track has changed here at Volusia, and I think that's why Anthony Rosselli's making the speed that he's making. He's entering kind of on the middle of the groove, but then by the time he's middle of the corner, up on the exit, he's moved up to the outside. As we've got one car around, is this going to be a caution? I think, is that Berger? Yes, it is.
Yes, Brian Berger is going to bring us the next caution for our field. We are within 7 laps to go, and the 60 car, a longtime member of this series, he's been racing since the first time that I broadcasted with this series over the course of its evolution. Excuse me. Let's get a replay back and see what happened to the Double B name, car number 60. And we'll see if this is going to be him alone or him with help. I think he's going to get some help, just a little inkling here.
So far, so good. Headed down. I believe that's the backstretch. Yes, into 3 and 4.
Cody, I said the car would look good for.
And
behind.
just
There's
a
only left.
little bit of a nudge. Not too much there, Joe, but when you're in the corner like that and you're getting ready to stand on the throttle, that's that's a pretty vulnerable spot to get tagged.
Absolutely, it is. And that is unfortunate for Berger. There's so little that he can do with that as well. There's only so much you can do at all, let alone the fact that the track is going to be slick as hell right now. So anyway, we are within 7 laps to go as well. Jonathan, your take, please. What are you anticipating for the rest of this race? We saw a fanatic restart before, and I don't think it's going to get any better.
I mean, it's hard to imagine anything more frantic with the pace that we just saw coming off of that last caution. But 7 to go, it's time to eat. You know, this is the moment. If you've got anything left in the tank, if you think you've got anything left in your race car, you think this surface has anything left to offer you, now is the time to empty it out and try to do what you can to grab as many spots as you can. If you're Anthony Roselli, I think he's probably feeling pretty confident about how his night has been going, how these restarts are going. Single file restart, that's going to play into his hands as well. Gavin Isley, I look to him to maybe make some bold moves, aggressive moves. And maybe there's a few drivers lurking in the backside of the top 10 who really believe that they have a chance to go and get themselves a top 5 finish, as we're back to green there. And Roselli driving off with a pretty good jump there, Joe. A little bit close on the green flag, but I think he timed it almost damn near perfectly.
He really did. It looked almost like Mike Brewer got close to hitting those tires down on the inside of turn number 4. I don't think he did. I'm riding here with Ryan Beagle because he had the biggest gap in between drivers. It looked like he had the worst restart of the guys in the top 5. Scott Rayom right there trying to put a little pressure on the 84 car. Back up front, it's single.
Oh, that's a big incident.
Whoa, look out.
1 car around in 3 and 4 and more involved. I saw, Reynolds. I don't know who, was that Reynolds? I think that was Diener that may have made a challenge on Rayom and just kind of misjudged it there. We're going to get a replay on this to see exactly how this played out. But I just saw it out of the corner of my eye, Joe. Yeah, I think we're going to see Reynolds take out the 4 car here.
Yeah, so Dean Reynolds here in the 79 machine. He's running in 7th place, contested by Roselli in the 80 car here, as well as one further down on the racetrack. And I'm going to get a wire screen angle on this so we can track it a little bit more. So Dean Reynolds, you'll see the 79 car send it in pretty deep in turns 3 and into 4. And then Rayom's on the top of the track, and he's trying to diamond off the bottom of... Well, actually, no, he's not. Reynolds just slid the whole way up the racetrack. And then into the back of the 4 car. Those two spin. DeRitter's going to try to avoid. He does not. Dean Meitzler's going to... Gosh almighty, he got through there. Holy cow.
That is threading the needle. And look at this. Is that the 9 car as well that also threaded the needle right through the middle? And then Dean's going to get a couple more cars involved there. You know what? It feels like maybe Reynolds just thought that the 4 car was going to stick to the outside and just gas it up, and the hole would be there for him to use that aggressive slide up and hold off the challenges from behind. But it just didn't quite pan out that way. And unfortunately, Rayom's going to have a good night go pretty sour here from Dirk Hardin.
Yeah, that is unfortunate for all of the parties involved. I saw Cody Harris get into there a little bit. Connor Ross, I think he might have got just a little bit of a tap. Zach Bardsley, very close to some contact as well. So those are some of the guys who are in mid-pack and more towards the tail of the field. Not necessarily the guys who we've been watching for the lead, but definitely a shame to see them have that happen so close to the end of this race. It does. I don't know. Do you think it helps Anthony Roselli, or do you think it hurts Anthony Roselli to have to do another restart, Jonathan?
I think it helps him. I mean, well, I don't think it hurts him. Let's say that. Obviously, if it had gone green with him, the gap he had amassed already, I don't think he would have been under fire necessarily. But the way he's been performing and the way he's timing these restarts, see, that looks a little early to me. I don't know. Maybe the truck is just throwing things off, but I don't know how I feel about that particular restart. It's not like the rest of the field didn't go with them, though, Joe.
Yeah, I would say that. It looked like they all went, and I know that with especially a track like Volusia, with where the pit entry is and the way that iRacing works and the way that the pace car works, like he's probably fine, but it looked a little bit iffy. Oh, well, it's fine. We're going to keep racing. We're going to actually come to the white flag now. We're already to the end of this race here as the white flag's going to come out for Roselli. He's got one more half mile to try to do it. Will Mike Brewer be able to put something to him, or will Anthony hold on? Jonathan, it's your call. Let's see what happens.
Down the back straightaway, here they go for the final time, headed into 3 and 4. Brewer's going to have a big send here, and he'll go for it. He'll get to the bottom side, but that actually might cost him as here comes Isley with a run. Checkers will wave on Anthony Roselli, starting the new campaign in the Murder iRacing series off on the right foot. That is Anthony Roselli picking up the win over Brewer and Gavin Isley back at it in the 18 car. That is one heck of a top 3 there. Great racing and good stuff from not just our familiar faces, Joe, but some newcomers as well, making a name for themselves early in this one.
Absolutely. Anthony Roselli picking up again with a win. I think he got 1 or 2 last season. He's going to get himself a first right off the bat. A fantastic way to start things off for the 7 car. And then we've got Mike Brewer in second place and Gavin Isley held on to a podium. We are going to get to talk to all 3 of them here in just a second. I want to give them some time to cool down a little bit at the end of it and get over here so we can get Jonathan and I on the mics to talk to them. Jonathan, before we do that, really quick, just give me a quick rundown of how you saw those last couple laps.
It just seemed like Roselli timed that restart perfect. It's not that Brewer didn't go right with him or Isley, but there was just something that Anthony had figured out on the exit of the corners that made him so much better than everybody else. And he didn't really have to sacrifice entry either to do that. So to me, I just think Roselli found the perfect line in terms of being aggressive on exit and getting the power down to drive away from the rest of the pack while not sacrificing some of that on entry. And that, I think, was his key to victory, especially in such a short run to the checkered.
Yes. Good rundown of that. We're having a little bit of difficulty here pulling our drivers in to get interviews. We do not have permission to drag them. So we need to get them brought into the broadcast booth. So we'll see if Matt DeRitter can help us out quick and jump them down. Oh, he's got them here. Well, he's going to need to bring them the rest of the way too.
All 3 are going to be interesting to talk to. I mean, Anthony Roselli, newcomer to the league last year and really made a name for himself. Gavin Isley, a perennial favorite, always a contender, had himself a great year on the dirt as well. I felt like every time I was checking in with kind of his scene and his local track, we were talking about him in a top 3 or in a position to win a race on the actual clay. And of course, it's going to be nice to talk to Brewer as well, who's a newcomer to this thing and had a great showing in the car that was scored the number 39, but 15 is the scheme number that we are looking at right now on that livery.
It is, and we've got a little help up here in the booth. Matt, we're going to bring in, if you can bring in Anthony Roselli for us. Jonathan, I'm going to let you on the fly decide. Do you want to take first, or you want me to take the winner?
I'll grab it. I'll talk to Anthony first. Let's see. Anthony Roselli, you got a copy, buddy.
What's up?
Well, congratulations. That's what's up, buddy. What a way to start the year in that lucky number 7 car with a win. Talk to us about the drive tonight from Volusia's.
Yeah, I mean, it went a whole lot better than opening night last year. Sorry, Brandon Plank, again. I'll never get over that. Yeah, I mean, I'm always really confident at Volusia. It's probably one of my better tracks, if not my best track on this sim. So I knew I just needed to hit my marks the whole night, be smart, be clean, keep the nose clean. When I saw Mike run quick time there, I think he ran quick time. I knew it was going to be a little bit tougher because I've run with Mike quite a lot on the sim. We've been part of the same sim shop sometimes, but I knew it was going to be pretty hard to get by him there.
It was a bit of a challenge. I want to talk to you about your line, though, and you talk about the confidence you have with Volusia, and obviously it paid off for you. Things looked really, really strong throughout the night in that 7 car. But particularly at the end, what did you feel, or what were you doing from your seat to maintain that gap. You never really came under fire once again. And it just seemed like your line, especially through the corners, was so smooth. You didn't give up much on entry and exit. It really seemed like you could get the power down.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I've learned with Volusia is being really consistent with your throttle. Like, you can bring it in a lot deeper with the throttle if you don't really give too much of it, and that's what I kind of learned. So you definitely get a little bit more drive into the corner that way, which helps out with that kind of slider line I was running. Because that's really the only line that works when it slicks off like that at Volusia. You can kind of run the top, but just got to be really consistent and super smooth here.
Super smooth night for you for sure. Talk to us again. You mentioned in that first portion they were talking about, things didn't really start the way you wanted them to last year. This year, much better start. And how much more confidence does that give you that you can really, in a shortened season, go and pursue a championship?
I mean, it gives you all the confidence in the world, knowing that you can like really pick up where you started last year. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think I won here last season, the last race we were here. So it just gives you a whole bunch of confidence. Big thing is grabbing that momentum and being able to use it to move forward with is the big thing.
Well, last one here. I'll give you the opportunity now. Who you got to thank for this great drive here tonight?
Same old people: Vancicle Electric, Mole Metals, Highwood Towing and Auto, Accurate Collision. Got to thank Randy Johnson, iRacing Setups. He does a lot for me now. Loris Carbs, everyone that makes this possible. And
congratulations. There's your winner, buddy. Anthony Roselli in the 7 car gets it done at Volusia, bud.
Thank you, guys.
And that's going to be Anthony Roselli from the win 2 in a row. I went back and checked that, and he's correct. It is going to be 2 in a row at the racetrack from the second Volusia race last season into tonight to start off. And hey, the champion last season won the first race. I'm just saying. So next, let's talk to a new driver of this series. We've got Mike Brewer, and he'll come up into the booth with us. Mike Brewer on the stream at BRPtv. This is Joe Donahue. You got a copy, brother?
Yes, sir, Joe. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Mike. Mike, that's a good way to start things off for you. You definitely are showing you have some skill and some experience behind the wheel of these big block modifieds, but this was your first time here with this series. Tell us about how your night went from your perspective.
Yeah, it went good. First night with this series, but a lot of these guys, I've raced side by side with most of these guys here for a while. So, especially hats off to Anthony. I've turned a lot of laps with him, and congrats to Gavin, Kenny there. It's always fun racing against you guys.
Well, it's good to have that experience coming in because you get put out on the racetrack with 23 other guys. You've never raced as a whole field together, and the track tonight, 50 laps around Volusia, is... I think it's long because I'm from Pennsylvania and I do sprint cars a lot, but 50 laps isn't always that long for a modified. How did you feel about the progression of the whole race for your car?
Yeah. As the race went on, I get too throttle happy, so it was real slick there, and I'm always searching. I don't know if you noticed that, but trying the top side, trying the bottom, trying the slider, just trying to find any way to gain back on Anthony there, because he was quick. That slider line, he was hitting that pretty good. I found something on the top there in 1 and 2, and then the slider in 3 and 4, but I'd catch him and then I'd fall back, and then Gavin would catch me, and then we'd battle. So then Anthony would pull away, but the cautions helped out. But
it looked that way. It looked like the sliding, it looked like the end of the race was really where things started to go more Anthony's way to take the checkered flag tonight, but second place isn't too shabby at all, and maybe this is a good precedent for you. How do you think this sets the tone for the rest of your season and possibly trying to contend for a championship here? Having a second place to start it off isn't too bad, and you're definitely one of the hot drivers of the night. You definitely were at the top of the board consistently from the beginning to the end of this broadcast.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the rest of this season. Definitely tougher field, so being consistent is going to be key. Like tonight, like I said, yeah, just got, I don't know, locked down there. But Kenny, he was pretty quick. Hats off to him.
Well, Mike, who else do you have to thank? There you go. Who do you have to thank and shout out here on the broadcast for putting together a car that was able to bring you to second place? You had a really fast one tonight and had a great showing for your first time with the series.
Well, Dean Reynolds for sure. I got to give him a shout out for inviting me to this league and talking with Matt there for a while and finally getting a hold of him and getting things straightened out to join this league. And you guys for putting this on. It's pretty cool to have it hosted there. And I've got some family members there that are watching, and I try to bring them in every night. You know, I send them the link all the time, and then they come in and watch. And then afterwards, they're always busting me, so they're probably laughing at me right now. But thanks to them guys for sticking it out and watching, and you guys for putting it on.
Well, it's a pleasure, Mike. Happy to have you. Glad to see you have a good run. Congratulations on a second place, and we'll see if you can go one spot better next week.
Yeah, we're going to give it a shot. Thank you.
Damn straight. Take it easy, Mike. Thank you. And that is your second place finisher for the night. Jonathan, I'm going to hand the microphone back over to you. You get to talk to our old friend Gavin Isley for a third place run.
Gavin Isley, what's going on, my friend?
Not too bad. How's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad. And good to hear from you. Good to see you back on the podium to start the year. Talk to us about the drive tonight.
We were okay. Started a little further back than we needed to, but Beagle showed us a good line, and we just kind of worked our way through.
You mentioned that good line that Beagle showed you. You were really one of the early adopters of the bottom side of the racetrack, but you were also quick to abandon it. What did you feel in the race car? What did you feel in the racing surface that made you jump to that outside line after following Beagle for a few laps and getting yourself up inside the top 5?
I noticed when Beagle's battling for second, the outside started to just inch a little bit further and further. So I figured if I move up before he does, I can probably get by him, and try to get by second. But the track single filed out around the top mainly, so pretty important that we did.
Yeah, I take advantage early. How important is it to make up ground early in the game? How quick does it feel like these racetracks change? Especially Volusia seemed to change pretty quickly for you guys. Maybe within 20 laps, it was time to get to the outside.
Yeah, it went from being real heavy to really racy, then just went to single lane. So I think if I would have started up a little further, would have been a little bit better. But that's what happens when you don't qualify the best and heat race the best.
Well, you get out of there with a podium in general. That's a good night. How does it feel to finish third? Good start to the season, and any confidence for yourself getting back on a championship run?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when you start out good like this, it tries to carry a little bit of momentum, see if we can do it again.
Absolutely, buddy. Well, congratulations. Who do you got to thank for this strong third place finish to open this season?
Showtime Wraps, Maple City Auto, and Nines Taxi, and the Discord boys.
Discord boys, they're going to be buzzing after this one. What a performance from the Catfish. Gavin Isley started out on the bottom side of the racetrack, moved his way up to third place for a solid finish at Volusia. Congratulations.
Thank you.
There he is, Joe Gavin Isley. What a night. What an opening race we saw there. You know what? I would say Gavin really explained it pretty well. I thought the first 5 laps, we had that early caution and took everybody a couple laps to maybe settle in. And then racy is a great way to describe it because we saw action all over this racetrack and all throughout the field.
Absolutely, I would agree. We had a conversation at the beginning of the night with Matt DeRitter here as we were setting up the show about the track surface. We were talking about, what do we preset this at? It's a video game, so you preset it. What do we preset this at? What do we anticipate out of this field? And honestly, that was something that the Beef helped us with a lot last season that we had to kind of figure out. So I'm thoroughly impressed by what happened here tonight. The track ran in really great, and I think especially my biggest number one takeaway is that we have brought in a rookie class of drivers who are here to win, and they are here to compete, and they are capable of doing so. We saw 2 in the top 5 of our drivers tonight. 2 of them are noobs to this series, and we can pull up the final results here on the screen just to prove that. Anthony Roselli won over Mike Brewer, who's new. Gavin Isley was 3rd. Kenny Coe with a great run to the finish, and Ryan Beagle finished 5th. The rest of the top 10 on the screen. The only other new name in that list is 10th placed Bud Molyneux, but definitely, Jonathan, it shows that they have arrived.
Yeah, and we saw that incident too where we had Rayom and Reynolds get together late. Both of them were on their way to solid finishes, and that definitely would have mixed things up inside the top 10. Brian Lawson brings it home 11th, and we see Giroux Smith. Good debut for Connor Ross there. Quiet night. I tried to avoid as many incidents as he could. A young racer from around these parts, and Hopefully his dad Adam watching as well, as Adam, pretty well known broadcaster up north of the border when it comes to racing in his own right. So Alan Slate rounds out the top 15. Glenn Sharp, there's Reynolds, Cody Harris, Rayom, and Sharp, your top 20.
2 Sharps in there. There's Glenn Sharp and Jeff Sharp. And then the last 4 across the screen here, Dylan Slider, Zach Bardsley, Brian Berger, Dylan Smith. Berger and Smith both finished a lap down, but they both finished. So we got all 24 cars to the finish at the end of the first race of the season. And that's pretty much going to do it from us. We've actually, since we've got him here, we may as well give him a microphone really quickly. Matt DeRitter, the host of MRDR Graphics and MDR Designs, you're out on the track. You got to experience the whole show from in the driver's seat. Maybe it's a little premature to ask what you thought of the whole thing put together, but what'd you think of the whole thing put together with the broadcast and the race and the series and everything?
Yeah, well, definitely my personal race didn't go the way I was expecting, but I felt like I started strong with the qualifying and the heat race, but just a series of bad calls on lane choice. But I think overall we had a good, solid group of guys together to put on a show, and looking forward to next week's for sure. Kind of clean some things up on the admin side and run with it. So
that's what we like to hear. Well, Jonathan, aside of me, we thank you for your efforts in keeping this series going and everything you've put into it. And Jonathan, I thank you for being a part of this consistently. We are up here trying to work together and get our, knock the dirt off, pun intended. At least I am. Jonathan runs a whole season up at Merrittville. For myself to get back on the block, I'm just excited and happy to be here. And I know that I can speak on behalf of Jonathan and Matt as well at the helm of the MRDR iRacing series and BRPtv that we are very excited to continue this trend forward for the next couple weeks. That next race, like Matt said, is Lernerville. 1 week from tonight. Be sure to subscribe to the BRPtv YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so you can get notifications of when we're going live for that race in 1 week's time. My parents put me on the big screen tonight. I want to shout out them for supporting us and me and keeping the screen on, at least somewhere in this house, that they can enjoy the show. Hopefully everybody else enjoyed and your driver did well. And if they didn't, well, just give it a week. Thank you, everybody from BRPtv. This is Joe Donahue signing off for the night. Have a good one.